Now let's welcome two more fantastic guests to the stage. Mihael Minđek is a first-team scout for Dinamo Zagreb. He holds a master's in kinesiology with a focus on football science and performance analysis, and brings extensive experience as a football analyst and scout. Welcome, Mihael. Joining him is Marko Sukreški, founder and CEO of Ultrax, an innovative startup specializing in advanced sports analytics. With a master's in kinesiology, he has experience as a strength and conditioning coach and sports scientist, working with Dinamo Zagreb, the Croatian Football Federation, and the Croatian Institute of Sports. Over the past 15 years, he has collaborated with Croatian Olympic and World Championship medalists, supporting their training and performance. Gentlemen, I hope you're ready. Let's get started. Lydia, can you give me the microphone, please? Okay. My first question goes to Mihael Minđek. Mihael, what does the current scouting process at Dinamo look like? And how much do you rely on data analytics?
First of all, thank you all for coming here. It's really nice to see you. I don't know, is it AI or is it football or Dinamo Zagreb? But I'm really happy to see you all here. And per question, yeah, in Dinamo Zagreb we have a synergistic approach where we about 70% of scouting is relied on the traditional methodology, where we scout players via video or live analysis. But recently and more we are implementing data analytics in the process, in the most important part, which is identifying which talents and which prospects we are recruiting. This depends on our KPIs in the team, and it depends on the position and which player is going maybe in the summer or maybe injuries. Everything can affect those KPIs, I mean the position we are scouting. So the process is basically in 5 steps. I mean it's simple to say it, but first and most important step is when we do the data screening and find maybe even 100 similar players to the position we are currently headhunting, so to say. We want to recruit to our team, and when we come to a number that is enough for our still small team of scouts, so around 10 players that are similar, then we start with the video analysis in 2 steps. And after these 2 steps with the video analysis, we go to live scouting and finally final assessment, which then relies budgeting and player wishes and sales and negotiation, but that's other part.
Okay, thank you. Now, Marko Sukreški, can you tell us, how can AI help tailor training sessions to the specific needs of players?
Hello to everybody. When we talk about optimizing the training in sports, today is a lot of data. So we have a lot of different sources of data, such GPS data, for example, in outdoor sport. Then we have LPS systems in indoor sports. Also, a lot of players use gadgets like Oura Ring, Whoop, Apple Watch, smart watches. So the amount of data is huge. And like René told us, the biggest challenge is to get this data in one place and then put it in the context of the sport or competition or the training. So it's a really complex question, but the idea is that all this data go in the direction of definition player load. So when we know what is the load of the player, then we can know what to do next with them or team or individual approach next day or this week or next month. Again, it's different in different sports.
Thank you, Marko. René, over to you. What challenges have you faced when introducing data analytics into scouting processes? Were coaches and scouts immediately open to adopting the technology?
No. No.
Okay, I guess that.
It was incredibly complicated. You know, they say that you cannot teach old dogs new tricks. Now, I know you can, but it's incredibly difficult. And I would say it's more difficult with the ones who have had more success. Because the ones who have had success, they don't want to change. That's how they got there, as I said before. I would say scouts are more open in general. Executives are more open than on-field people. Because on-field people have grown up through decades sometimes of different experiences, and seeing somebody who is technically an outsider trying to bring in new ways from somewhere else that may or may not have success, may or may not have immediate success, always is bound to find resistance. But, you know, over time, it's just going to happen. So the sooner we go along with it, the better we're going to be. But yes, it's been extremely complicated, and I think that part of having success is actually picking the right personnel that's going to go along with you, because internal resistance is never a good thing. I will actually give you a positive example, because I never like to talk about negative aspects. But for example, one team in our group is 𝐒𝐩𝐨𝐃𝐢𝐳, our Turkish team. And when we picked our current coach, who's a Bulgarian coach, who has had massive international success over the years, called 𝐒𝐨𝐴𝐵 𝐿𝐼, we were last year kind of struggling almost mid-table in the second division in Turkey. And when he came over, he turned things around. But how did he turn them around? Yes, he's a great coach, but he bought 100% into our process and methodology, and he built into it. And so he has been able to work with us and speak the same language that we speak, and that has made it for a simpler and better and more streamlined scouting and player evaluation process. We know exactly what we need to find for him, and he's very, very educated in using stats and data. He actually looks for it, and all of a sudden, we turned things around. Now, this year, in January, we were 4th as a newly promoted team with one of the smallest budgets in the league. Then we had a flurry of injuries. Now I think we're down to 7th. Still a massively successful season for a team that has been newly promoted. But the reason for that is that everybody's been on the same page. And, you know, this is a country of great rowers. And rowing, to have success, you have to row in the same direction. If you have somebody rowing in the other direction, even if he's not very strong, it's going to provide a massive resistance that you cannot overcome. So yes, we have faced challenges, but I expect those challenges to dissolve over time. And because after all, success stories are the ones that get copied. We are having a success story internally, and I think that over time, it's just going to become inevitable.
True. And Marko, the first question for you. How are AI models trained for football scouting, and which data points do you consider crucial?
We use technical data, physical data, and some data that is available from public sources. To train the models, we didn't have, like I already mentioned, there is no labeled data set we can use for training and evaluation. So we had to create data set first. So what we did, we picked up some popular players that we can say, for example, 𝐒𝐩𝐿, his top defender, his potential is 10. Then we can say, for example, we know Florian Wirtz, his top talent, one of the best in Europe, his potential is 10, because, you know, everyone knows that. So we took a lot of players that we know that are their potential. Some that were doubtful. We for example took players from different clubs, from different leagues. We looked at UEFA coefficients of the clubs, and somehow we graded players based on that, what they have achieved in their clubs based on club level, league level, and we did manual tagging of player potential. So that's the way how we did it to create training and evaluation data set. And then we used those data to train and create models. Also it was really difficult to create data set for market value, because we would have, for example, player with the same skill. So we can say, maybe you will agree with me or maybe not, that, for example, Florian Wirtz and Martin Baturina, they're about the same age, and they are close to their potential. Florian Wirtz is like 100 million, Martin Baturina is 20 million. So let's say we'll see what will happen in next years. But let's say we have the same player in two different clubs. If Martin Baturina is playing, for example, for Borussia Dortmund, with the same stats, if he's a player like he is right now, his evaluation on transfer market would be 80 million or 60 million, something like that. So that's the reason why we had problems with the evaluation of the models. Because if you have the player with the same stats in one club in poor league, and same player with the same stats in much better league, that their evaluation would not be the same. So we had to also manual tag and create, some crazy stuff to create to create data sets to train and to evaluate models.
Okay, thank you, Marko. Let's dive now into insights and challenges. Marko Sukreški, as the owner of the platform that, as you said, tracks a lot of players' data, how advanced are AI models today in predicting players' fatigue, injury, risk, and recovery? Can AI help reduce the risk of overtraining or injuries?
So I'm not the tech guy, so I can't tell you how advanced algorithms are technically, but I know that there is not a lot of clubs who are using AI, only the big one and the rich one. So, and when I mean the big one and rich one, this is top 5 league in football Europe, maybe US leagues, professional US leagues, and of course there are some rich clubs. The most of clubs or even sport don't use data, and that's why they don't have the AI algorithms. And is it possible to use AI for the predicting injury? Yes. And we are now doing one project where we have 4 years of data of heart rate monitoring and GPS data, one Sweden professional team, and 6 different ages. So what we wanted to find is some pattern in data which happened before injury. So then next time when this pattern happened, this can be signed for, okay, it's dangerous, injury can be happen. But also the biggest problem is the amount of data and continuum of this data. So this is still the biggest problem in sport for me.
Okay, thank you. My next question is for Marko Štajcer. How do you ensure the accuracy and objectivity of AI models in player assessment? What are the key technologies behind your solution?
Another difficult question.
I know.
Yes, so as I already said, that there is no data set we can use to compare the data, and this is where we need expertise from domain. So we had a lot of questions for René when we started the project. Also, we had a lot of consultations with Mihael and the Dinamo team, try to find the right way to define data set that we will use for training and evaluation of the models. And which technologies? Actually, we are using Google Cloud, so everything is on GCP. We have there tools to collect data, to integrate data, and also we use models available there to create predictions.
Thank you, Marko. René, based on your experience, how do coaches and scouts interact with AI-generated reports? Are the insights easy to interpret and apply?
Yes, that's what we work on. We try to create a situation where it's understandable and translatable to people who are on field, because obviously people who work in tech, they have to understand that not everybody is as tech literate as they are. So you have to make the data not just usable, but also understandable by everyday people. So it's an interesting question, because as I said, it varies from person to person and the way they approach it and the way their mind is open. However, in general, if I have to say in general, they treat it positively because it's more what they're used to. So for example, when you present data, they're not used to using data, they might be more skeptical. But when you present it, the same data, but in a way they're used to treating it, so for example, like an LLM would do, then they become more receptive to it, even though you're presenting exactly the same thing. But they're used to reading it in a certain way, so the way you present it becomes more accessible to them. I would say yes, they are more receptive to it because they find more meaning to it, they understand what you're trying to say to them and what you're trying to convey to them. But one thing that we've experimented on since the Red Sox, for example, is having some people who have on-field backgrounds, for example, but also who have tech backgrounds, who understand it, who can be the bridge between the two worlds. And once you get that done, then you actually get to the coaches and you do get to the scouts and you understand what each of them wants. Because in the end, we are trying to get to the same results. We're just trying to do it with different approaches. And once you do bridge that gap, that's when success happens, really.
Great, thank you. Thank you, René. And how about Croatia? Mihael, how open are players and coaches to making data-driven decisions? Is there still a resistance to technology in sports?
Yeah, I think it all starts in the academy, if you speak about players. So if you present data or not data, video clips to someone who is under 12, 1 or 2 per week, just bits by bits, and then adding every year a bit more analysis to that player, to that team, to that coach, work with the coach. I think the analysts in the academy have a big role in adopting the data and data analytics for later stages. I think such practical, tactical insights that can adjust performance for players at that young age, and if they see it directly on the pitch, it's memorable for them, and they just continue to grow and to learn and to just accept data that's proven and that's really nicely presented. For coaches, I've met a lot of coaches. Many of them have different approaches, but again, if you present their ideas and the data they want to see in a practical way, they will definitely say yes to it and start a conversation about it.
I agree. Now let's talk about the impact of AI integration and the future of scouting. René, how has AI changed not just scouting, but overall player evaluation and performance monitoring? Can AI help prevent clubs from making costly mistakes by identifying red flags in a player's data profile?
Yes, it already has been doing that. Now, obviously, the biggest advantage in the short term is the scalability of AI. We can do a lot more things in a lot less time. We can cut costs all around. So that is obviously something great in the short term. The more advanced the systems get, and we're talking about from 1 month to the other, we've been presented, for example, just in this month at Sport Republic, with certain things that we didn't think were even doable maybe 3 or 4 months ago. There are companies coming up and showing new things, and there are others that are falling behind the curve. And everything points to being able to process more data more effectively, understand more about football. Because remember, sports are an industry that humbles you very, very quickly. You learn every day, and the more you learn, the more you understand you don't know anything about it. And so you keep learning, and AI actually helps us grow exponentially into it. So yes, it's going to help us cut costs, identify red flags definitely quicker, and I think that over time we're going to be able to analyze not just on-field data, but also off-the-field data with AI, and understand perhaps personality traits, do profiling, player profiling. So it's going to help us prevent very costly mistakes. But again, the advantages that are in other fields, such as, for example, in the scalability of AI, should not be understated, because I think those can already be achieved today, whereas other advantages are going to come over the next few years. And to be honest, I don't think we can even see where AI can take us just yet. We can hypothesize, but really, it's growing so fast that I bet that in 2 or 3 years' time, we're going to be able to do things that we don't even dream about today.
Okay, Marko Sukreški, are there situations where AI still falls short compared to human judgment and experience?
Well, as coach, yes, but I believe that the biggest problem is data. So if you don't have the right data, and then AI can have problems. But I believe that humans are here to define the problems. And if we all think that the problem is clear in sport, yes, at the end, win or lose, this is very clear. But below this top level problem, you have, I don't know, maybe 100 or 200 much smaller problems, which are part of this bigger problem. So coaches and human still need to define all the problems. And sport, especially football, is a very complex sport. So you have, I don't know, nutrition, lifestyle, mental health, money, social impacts, fans, results. So it's a lot of different impacts which are outside of the, I don't know, game performance. So this is something what coaches need to do, define the right problems, and then when we define the problems and when we have the data for these problems, then AI is the much better tool than human brain, because we don't have such capacity for mathematics and data analysis.
Okay, AI can help. Okay, thank you. Marko Štajcer, how do you see AI evolving in scouting? Will all clubs need to adopt this technology to stay competitive?
Yes, I am sure. Maybe not all clubs, but
the big one.
Maybe not the biggest one, because we just discussed, for example, Real Madrid, if they plan to spend 100 million euros for some specific player, so they don't need data analytics for that. Everyone in the world knows who the one is, you know. But for that, some let's say mid-level clubs that want, as René mentioned, that don't have budget like big ones, and they want to compete with big ones. AI will be like that like differentiator, I'm sure.
Like in movie Moneyball.
Like in Moneyball. Yeah.
Okay. Mihael, if you had unlimited resources, what would be the ultimate AI system for football?
So from Bill Gates' perspective or Elon Musk? I don't know.
Both of them.
Both of them. So it would be, such system would be an end-to-end like perfect combination of predictors from biomechanical, injury prevention, then let's go to AI scouting platform where real game scenarios are played over and over in some computer cloud that gives us insights of future player development. Then I think the biggest problem now for scouting and for AI scouting is going to be the psychological and mental factors, because I think that this is the area where AI will have to really evolve to make some really good algorithms that can predict how will someone react. But if I have unlimited resources, I think we would find a solution for that too.
Yes, I agree. Thank you. Now on to our final questions. Marko Sukreški, how accessible is your AI platform for clubs with limited resources?
So our idea is make data affordable to everybody. So you have different level of data. You have GPS data or GPS devices, which are relatively expensive, but also you can collect some data which is free. You need only the mobile phone. And this is the model which we are building. So we want to have different tier of data. So for small clubs, you have something. For big one, you have all. And then we want to find some kind of correlation between small club and big club, because at the end, the players from small club play in the big ones. And this is always very interesting for the big one. So they want to have data about players who will come to there. So, for example, if we talk about Croatian perspective, the huge value will be if you have the data from all, I don't know, national level first league, under 15, under 17, and under 19. So this is something what we want to develop, but we will see. So, of course, if you have data with smaller value, then some kind of, I don't know, prediction is not so big. But again, this continuum is very important.
Okay, René, based on your experience, what advice would you give to clubs looking to start using data analytics in scouting and performance analysis?
Collect data. Collect data. Collect, because you don't know where the meaning could be before you collect it. That's the whole point. You don't know what the data is going to show you before collecting it. It might be something insignificant, that looks insignificant and feels insignificant, and then it has a higher meaning. And maybe it doesn't have the meaning you can expect, but we can find out what happens not just in scouting, but also in player development or in medical aspects. And, well, to give you an idea, I know that on Marko Štajcer's presentation earlier on, there was one thing that was saying that attempted dribbles go down throughout a player's career. Like the most attempted dribbles usually are going to be at the beginning of a career. So when you're projecting, you have to know that attempted dribbles go down. But something that people don't know is that the percentage of successful dribble goes straight up. And why is that? What does that show? It shows something kind of that you can imagine, that players get more intelligent with experience. So they will not try to dribble everybody, they will try to dribble with higher percentages. Or to give you another example, you can learn more about how a player thinks. For example, there's a player I absolutely love, I always speak about him because he's so peculiar, that is 𝐒𝐨 𝐿obotka. He's a player that, he's a midfielder for Napoli. He's a wonderful, wonderful player who has a very quirky statistical profile, because some of his stats are absolutely disastrous and some of his stats are through the roof. He is possibly the best in the world at some things, and he's not very good at others. But in the right environment, he thrives and he's absolutely dominant. And what's more, you will see some very surprising things. For example, who would care about the aerial winning percentage of 𝐒𝐨 𝐿obotka? The man is 170, not very athletic, not very strong. So why would you look at that? People would say, okay, I'm not collecting that data because it doesn't tell me anything. Well, guess what? 𝐒𝐨 𝐿obotka has an incredibly high winning percentage of aerial duels. Now, why is that? Obviously, he's not good aerially. If you scout him, you see it. It's obviously he's not good aerially. But what is he good at? He's good at picking his spots. He knows when he can win an aerial, and he'll go into it. And when he cannot win it, he won't waste his time jumping for it. He'll actually get back into position. So that makes him a much, much better player than somebody who challenges everything and is going to lose that challenge. It just shows you the intelligence. And so by measuring something that you think is going to be insignificant, you learn about the sport. You learn that he's so intelligent intelligent, you learn something that might seem unmeasurable, like, for example, player intelligence. How do you measure it? How do you measure decision-making? Well, sometimes you measure it by tallying up things that initially seem insignificant, but that chip into the value of a player's on-field performance. So the first thing I would say is collect everything you can and then try to make sense of it. And that's where AI can also help. Because obviously, if you have to parse the data manually, it could take a lifetime to really do it properly. Whereas with AI, you can do it much quicker, and you might find meaning where you think there might be none.
This is a really good advice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mihael, looking ahead, do you see Croatian football relying more on data-driven decision-making in scouting, or do you think traditional methods will still dominate for years to come?
On René's note, data analytics is very, very important because how that player positioned itself, you have to know it. And what we see in Croatian clubs is, I think we are nearing an inflection point where we need data analytics to just go ahead, go to the future, to identify players. It's not anymore like a competitive advantage to use data analytics. I think it's an absolute necessity to use it because you will lose pace. I mean, in the world, worldwide elite clubs are using it, making transfers based on data analytics, making recruitment decisions based on data analytics. So I think that Croatian clubs, if they want to stay competitive in the European range of clubs, in top-tier clubs, I think it's a must to have data analytics.
Or they'll become a dinosaur.
Yes, or we become dinosaurs. And the second question was for traditional methods. I don't think they will ever become obsolete because I believe in this mix of synergy so quantitative and qualitative assessment is, I think, the only way we can do assessment for player recruitment.
Thank you. And finally, a question for all of you. How do you see the role of AI in the future of scouting? Can René begin? Okay.
Sure. Well, as I said, I know this is going to be an unimaginative answer, but I don't think we can actually quite tell because the limits are so far away from where we see right now that we have no idea where it's going to be. It's almost like, setting sail before America was discovered. And, well, you think you're going to India and you end up in America. You don't even know what's beyond the sea, but you have to navigate it to get there, right, and to find out. So I think we cannot really imagine. What we do know, however, from what we are achieving is that this is a time of progress at such an incredible pace that we are advancing faster than any other time in history. And AI is just going to speed up that even further. And so yes, I think, the one thing I don't think is going to happen is that scouts are not going to become obsolete. There's no question about that. I agree with Mihael. I think this is just going to make us better because we're going to supplement what we do, and this is going to improve us. And guess what? It's actually going to improve scouts. We're going to be able to assess and develop scouts. These days, all we can do is basically rely on them and on their gut feel. But now we're going to be able to also understand what they see well, what they don't see well, and how we can improve them and teach them what they're missing. So this is going to make everybody better, not just, the player evaluation, but also the evaluators themselves. And that's why, wherever I look, I don't see there is any sector being left untouched by the impact of AI. I think it's going to make everything and everybody better at what we do. And well, that also means that it's going to become savage out there. You either use it or you are left behind. There's no middle ground.
Marko?
Well, yes, I I cannot but agree with René and Mihael, and I really think
I will agree next.
So easy.
I really think that AI Almighty will not replace scouts, and will not replace us. Not totally, but it will help us. It will help us to automate some repeatable tasks, to do something that is very difficult for us to deal with a lot of data, a lot of numbers. You know, AI will help us to deal with that, but it will not replace us. And in football scouting, I will tell you why. For example, I didn't mention the problem, missing data. So there is a lot of great players, we don't have their data. For example, you have Real Madrid, Barcelona, Manchester City, all top tier clubs, they have great backup players. They don't play. They don't play regularly. They are backup players, and we don't have data about their performance. And AI model will never see that players. But I can bet that René and his colleagues in scouting and Mihael, they know who they are. And AI model will never recognize that because there is no data. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It will help us, but not in all cases.
Okay. Mihael?
Yeah, same question.
Yes, same question.
So I don't know how people can be scared of AI, especially in scouting, because something that makes you smarter, faster, and better at making decisions. So the certainty to make a decision is on your side. I mean, it's never 100% with any decision you make, but something that enhances and makes you smarter and faster by reaching a global market through AI, and to compromise every data set you can buy or you can have. I think that's the future, and I agree with René and with Marko that AI should be used, and the fear is just unnecessary. If you want to be better at your work, any work you're doing, even in scouting, you need to use AI.
Absolutely. And Marko, do you agree?
Yeah, of course, hard to add something after guys, but maybe just that data and AI will move from the professional sport to all others level of sports, youth sport especially, then amateur sports, and even in some, I don't know, fitness industry. So AI in the field of human, I don't know, exercise and moving have the big potential, and for sure is the future.
Thank you. Thank you all. Does anyone have any questions for our panelists? Okay. Yeah.
Good evening. I have two questions, one for Mr. René and one for Mr. Michael. Mr. René, do you use AI analytics only to hire players, or can you use it only to hire the coaches or medical staff or physios?
No, so far we think it is advanced, but not quite advanced, especially for medical staff and physio, because we don't have data. It's really complicated because of privacy reasons. You know, you don't have the data on all the medicals from all other players. You have to speak to the agent, you have to speak to the team, you have to be allowed to get it. So because we don't have comprehensive data on how all the doctors in the world work, we would not make that decision based on AI. So right now we make decisions based on AI for aspects that we have pervasive data on. So for now, we are basically starting to use it, but for recruitment purposes, and also for certain game aspects, although we have not integrated them full time, but there are certain game aspects that we're testing currently still. But yes, this is one point that we've all touched on. If you don't have enough data and good data, reliable data, then it's better not to use it. Because remember, any system, any IT system works on the principle of 𝐒𝐥𝐭, garbage in, garbage out. If you feed it garbage data or data that's just not good enough, then the insights that you're going to receive are going to make you worse. They're going to produce garbage. Not because the system is not intelligent, but because any system relies on good data. Just think about any person that makes any reasoning. If they work with the wrong premises, they're going to get to the wrong conclusions. So that's why, for now, we only use it where we think the data is reliable enough, where then AI's conclusions can be reliable enough. And anyway, we still double check it and triple check it and work on them. So we would never, not yet at least, we would never make decisions only based on AI. Although, yes, we do see what it thinks because it might see something that we are not able to see just yet.
Thank you. And the second question for Mr. Michael. What kind of data show that Mamaj is a good player for Dinamo?
Oh, so tricky questions. Yeah, I've been used to it. So this question regarding Mamaj, his data actually shows he was the best central back in the Hungarian league when compared to Hungarian league. And when you look at his KPIs, in which we have made comparisons to our own players, you can see that he is even better he's better in most of the KPIs. So, but there is one, I spoke about it before, there AI for psychology and for mental analysis is something that's not here yet. So Mamaj has incredible capabilities. He's the fastest player in all of the defenders in Dinamo. But the reason why he doesn't perform on pitch is another conversation. So at that moment, he was the right choice.
Thank you, Mihael. Do we have more questions? Okay. Can you pass the microphone, please? Yeah, back. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So I have a question for Mr. Mihael, obviously.
Which player? Which
I want to ask you about how satisfied you are with what you see in data for the players in junior program with their actual transgression as they go higher up in the ranks. Are you satisfied with correlation of the data?
So I'm not with the young academy for 4.5 years now, but when I came to Dinamo as an analyst, my idea, there was only one analyst back then in academy, and my idea was to implement modeling for players. For example, you have 𝐒𝐩𝐿, and you have data through 𝐒𝐳𝐊 data. You have video evidence of how he played and performed, and then later on we added GPS data as well. I think in the near future we will have modeling for every position, for every player that made a step up in the European competitions, big competitions. So at the I didn't answer your question because I don't know at the moment how it works in the academy, but we can talk later and exchange number, and I can find out for you.
What does AI say? Will we defend our title?
Of course.
That's great.
That's not in the question.
Great. Next question. To the back. Thank you.
Hello. I also have a question for Mihael. What kind of data you use for analysis of Mamaj, and who provide this data?
This data was provided by a platform called DribbleUp, and they use Optasport. So Stats Perform, it's one of the best data providers in the world.
Okay, because he played in last 3 seasons just 35 games for Ferencváros, and then he didn't play so much at the last season, so it was interesting for me.
At that moment, that was the right decision, according to data.
Thank you. More questions? Yeah?
I have one question. I'm a bit insider in this situation, but maybe Marko can explain what we are planning to do with our model and how to take into account this part of the information that is not player on-field statistics.
Yeah, we are thinking about that. So I already mentioned that there are some stats that we cannot see in the data. But René also said that Lobotka is picking actions he will engage with. So he does right decisions in the pitch. So I remember one interview of Arsène Wenger. So Arsène Wenger told that he used to buy young players. You remember that Arsenal always had like wonder kids, kindergarten, you know, and some succeeded, some not. And Arsène Wenger said in that interview that players usually by the age of 18 reach top of their technical abilities, and then it depends. Only if player is mentally enough and mentally ready to, and professional to maintain his physical performance and mentally ready for highest level of football. So what we think that we can we didn't have time to do that in that project, but there is a lot of data about actions on the football pitch, about successful actions, about successful passes, but we could also derive some data from unsuccessful passes, for example, and for example, from that successful actions and how players try to create some algorithm which will like extract data that will be useful to somehow score decision making that player is doing on the pitch. And also there is some things we can figure out from public available data from news portals. So usually they would like point some player threats, some things when player is performing in some difficult matches, in matches of high intensity. So there is also, we can find in newspaper articles if player is unprofessional. So there's a lot of options to actually create psychological profile of the player. So that I think that's the next thing, and there is potential to have that in the future.
Okay, another one.
First of all, I would like to apologize to all the guys behind me. Obviously, I'm not from soccer, and
that's okay.
It's obviously about football. Are there any similar models for basketball or other sports?
Okay, this is a question for Marko, René, or anybody who can. Anybody? René?
Yeah. I mean, you know, in basketball they say analytics kill the mid-range, right? Yeah. So I am not too much into it, as I said, with basketball. But I can tell you, before the Boston Red Sox, I worked for the Arizona Diamondbacks, and the Arizona Diamondbacks shared an office with the Phoenix Suns. And they had a pretty strong analytics team, and we're talking about 15 years ago. Now, over time, you know, there are guys like Daryl Morey have become famous for their reliance on analytics. So yes, everybody builds upon this. And what is interesting is that at least in the US level, I know for a fact that some aspects have been copied between sports. So for example, baseball is built on the concept that there are 5 tools, 5 aspects, 5 traits, we can call them however you want, that project future performance. This is not specifically about data, but it's more about scouting. So, for example, the running tool, the throwing tool, the hitting for power, and the fielding. And so when you go and scout, for example, a 15-year-old in baseball, you look for those tools because other aspects, which are also extremely important, can be taught. And other sports have built upon this to understand which ones are their tools, which of their traits cannot be taught, but can only be nurtured, and which traits, on the other hand, can be entirely developed. In football, I'm just going to give you one example because I don't want to give you too much of what we do as well, because there are other teams listening. No, just like one. I don't know. But no, for example, let's call it speed. Speed is an obvious tool in any sport. Like you can take, let's say, Victor Osimhen, right? Victor Osimhen is fast. He's fast even if he doesn't train, you know? He's just fast. You will never be able to take Mamai. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. No, you can never take an average player and make him as fast as Victor Osimhen. You will never be able to do that, okay? You can obviously change their running posture, you can train them a bit, you can improve them a bit, but if somebody is not born with certain characteristics, he's not gonna be like that. You cannot teach height. You cannot teach certain aspects, right? That's the way you're born. Obviously, they can be improved and so on. Whereas, for example, there are other aspects that can be taught. And to give you an idea, the way you have to think about tools, for example, is that they go up and then they go down throughout your life. Because obviously, Victor Osimhen at 60 is not going to be as fast as he is today, regardless of how much he trains. However, there are some other aspects, which I like to call the skills, that go up throughout a player or a person's life. I know now much more about not just football, but everything in life, much more than I knew when I was 16 or 18 or 20. Which means that, for example, tactical ability can be taught. Whereas, for example, speed cannot be taught. So concepts like this have spread out throughout all American sports, and implicitly also in European sports. They're not as explicitly stated. For example, if you start scouting baseball, that's the first thing they'll tell you, the 5 tools. You have to rotate your scouting about it. In football, it's not as explicit, but everybody understands implicitly that you cannot teach size, you cannot teach speed, whereas other aspects can be taught. Like, you know, when I speak to my scouts, they will say, you know, this guy has this problem, but we can teach him how to, you know, get out of it, obviously. And the more you refine this, the more you end up having a similar model. I think that baseball, for example, or American football or basketball are not really different. The technical aspect of those sports is different, but in the end, they're athletes, and we're scouting athletes. And because of that, you can create an approach or a model that works across sports. You just have to be able to adapt it and to fine-tune it. But really, what works in one sport is going to work in another. And I mentioned, for example, the fact that Robert Einhorn is the CEO of 𝐒𝐻𝐶 Alkmaar. Billy Beane is a part owner of Toulouse and everything. They've been successful. John Henry has been successful at Liverpool. And it's not like Liverpool works exactly like the Red Sox, but they use the same approach to their work as the Red Sox. And those approaches do work. So while I am not really answering your question in the sense that I cannot tell you that the model is exactly the same, I can tell you that the approach throughout American sports is the same. The Jonah Hill guy that was played in Moneyball, the real person, Paul De Podesta, has become a general manager in American football, to give you an idea. And in America, the thing I've been doing, or that a few have been doing, jumping to European football, is a lot more common. You see guys who are analysts in baseball that go into hockey, or going to football, or going to basketball. So because of this, there is a lot of translation between sports. And so yes, at least at the US level, I can tell you that the models are very much alive and very much developing. And of course, in some sports you can rely on it a bit more, and in some others a bit less. But the fact that, some of the most exciting plays are being taken out in all sports. Think about it. Basketball, mid-range has been killed. In baseball, they used to do a lot more stealing bases, which is an incredibly exciting play and also a very inefficient one. But even in football, there used to be many, many more shots from inefficient zones. Now they don't shoot as much from those inefficient zones. So you can see that it's part of, I think it's the flip side of technological and AI and data advancements, because they teach you how to be efficient, but sometimes you love it when somebody scores a screamer, scores an impossible goal. But unfortunately, part of the reasons that it's so exciting, it's that it's a low probability event, which is something that nobody likes. So that's the flip side. You try to maximize your performance, and That does not make you boring, in my opinion, but it does make you more similar. You know, all teams start playing a bit more similar in similar ways because they all seek efficiency. And if you are unsure whether these aspects exist in one place or the other, just look if teams are starting to do things in a similar way. Set pieces, corner kicks, a lot more teams are taking in-swingers than out-swingers these days. And when they do take out-swingers, it's because they have something prepared. Because if you take an average in-swinger, it's a much better play than the average out-swinger. However, out-swingers, when you do have a specific set play on, can become more efficient. But if you see an out-swinger without a plan, then that team probably doesn't use analytics as much. Whereas if you see an out-swinger and they do have a plan, then they're probably even smarter than teams that do take in-swingers, which are high percentage play, but usually without as much of a plan as out-swingers with a plan, if that makes sense. So these are just examples, but yes, you know, it's making headways. And today we're talking about this. In 2 years' time, it's going to be strange thinking that we even spoke about whether these advancements were taking place, because everybody's going to have to be using these. And it kind of feels like where we were in baseball about 20 years ago. And today, these things are taken for given, for granted, and it's going to go in that direction in football as well. I'm sure about this.
Another question. Is this data mostly numerical, or there are also some comments of scouts and coaches and data about family psychology?
It is a very good point. So obviously we start with data, because with actually numerical data, because it's structured data, and structured data is extremely easy to analyze as opposed to unstructured data. But we're going in that direction. I cannot tell you more than that, because again, I don't want to give too much, because however, seriously speaking, we are taking everything into account, because the significance of stuff can be hidden anywhere. And sometimes it is in a throwaway comment. I think Marko said something earlier on about learning about people's habits. Well, by actually making a search, I'm not going to name the player because we didn't sign him, but we were looking to sign a player from a country where we didn't speak the language. We used the DeepSeek model to find out about him, because obviously with DeepSeek you can search anywhere in any language. And we found out stuff that we didn't like, and so we passed on him, and we would have made a big mistake. So that goes back to the question that I was asked, you know, about avoiding mistakes as well. So, and that's something that doesn't come through actual data, but came through newspaper articles that the agent forgot to mention to us. And, you know, it happens, of course. It wasn't malicious or anything, but it was something that we did not like, and so we passed on the player. So yes, we use data everywhere, but of course, the main one is the structured data that we can analyze. This does not mean that we're not using other stuff. It just means that it's going to take a little more time before we integrate it full time and well, because we are still studying. We're still learning about it every day as it goes by.
We have another question in the back. Yeah. Can you please pass the microphone? Please. Thank you.
Question for René. So, at one point, we will have enough data, we will have very good models, and all teams will use them. So, let's say we will get back to the situation we now have. We will have a difference in the budget, of course, and it will come back to the tactics and style of play. Do you see at some point in, let's say, 2 years, some AI models, tools, or agents that will help coaches live, let's say, telling them, take this man out, or change the formation, or move someone a little bit further or back, or something like that. But during the game, they are now relying on their staff. Can this be even even better with AI help?
It's already happening. It's already happening. There's one team in the Premier League that has a tablet that updates data consistently, live, and they make decisions based on it. You know, to go back in baseball, we've been doing it for years. For example, because in baseball all the action is concentrated, we are actually able to understand when a pitcher is getting tired, because his release point will decrease. It might decrease by a fraction of an inch, maybe like half a centimeter. But that, while insignificant, and you cannot see it with the naked eye, it tells you that the guy is tiring. And if he's tiring and his release point is changing, he might get hurt. So you know it's time to get him out. In football, it's already happening on a smaller scale, and not to that extent, but they're already using live data to make decisions. And yes, eventually we're going to have so much data where data is going to be needed, as I said, not to fall behind. And this is actually going to make scouts even more important. And that's why they're never going to lose their job, scouts and coaches. Because once everybody has the same data, and once everybody becomes good enough to use it, because remember, people change teams. You know, at some point I'm going to leave Sport Republic, perhaps. I don't know if I'm going to stay there for the next 40 years of my life. I don't know. Maybe yes. I mean, they got to pay. But if they, yeah, but if they do, you know, everybody's going to change. There's a high turnover. And this means that if somebody, there are teams that are more advanced than us because they have more resources. But when somebody comes from those teams, we learn what they have. It's inevitable. So once there is enough turnover over the years and everybody's got enough data, everybody's going to do a similar job, which means that then the human touch is going to be more important once again. Right now, data gives you the advantage. Then shortly it's going to be AI. And once everything is basically packaged into one, it's going to go back to square one. So it's going to go to tactics, it's going to go to player development, it's going to go to scouting youth, it's going to be player development in youth, injury prevention, so many aspects. We're never going to run out of it. And then it's, of course, tactics. And then once all of that is done, guess what? It's going to go to Moneyball. Being able to understand what is an undervalued asset. So you're going to start buying, for example, flawed players. You're going to start to buy players who are really bad at some aspects. However, you can build the tactical systems around them that hides those weaknesses and maximizes their strengths. Like Lobotka, you put him in a club team, he's going to be bad. You put him in Napoli, he's going to be amazing. You put him in Barcelona, he's going to be amazing. Because his strengths are maximized by that. And obviously you can put around him players like, for example, Napoli have Anguissa and McTominay, who are big guys who run a lot and win a lot of balls back, and he can be a short king between them and managing all the ball possession. And we're going to be able to do things like that. And guess what? Because of that, we're never going to run out of ways to exploit advantages. We just have to have an open mind and realize that it's never going to be the end of anything. There's always going to be a next aspect. And sometimes I'm going to wrap it up, but then we're going to move to psychological aspects. You know, so many guys, today I was speaking about a Croatian player, I'm not going to name his name, but that I think was, 2 years ago I watched Croatia under 21, and I felt this guy's the most talented player on the pitch. Not just for Croatia, but of all the 22. And I said, I'm never going to sign him because he was very soft in his approach, very weak. You could see that there was something wrong with him, not in terms of talent. The talent was amazing, but it's going to be really hard to get something from him. Well, once you can profile these kinds of things and also maybe understand how to strengthen it, basically take it into a psychological kind of aspect and strengthen him when he's young, because of course once a guy becomes 22, 23, 27, it's going to be hard to change his personality. But maybe you can start detecting these aspects when he's 13 or 14 or 15 and make him grow in a different way, then you win on that side as well. So there's always going to be something, and I firmly think that about 20 or 30 years from now, once the technological aspect is almost exhausted, and we're very far from that, by the way, but at some point we will get there, then the human touch will get back to being even more important than it is today, and it's going to make the difference.
Great. Okay. If there are no more questions, we have a little surprise for you. Please check under your seat. The 5 luckiest people in the audience will find an envelope Yes, yes, please check under your seat. And one Solvership soccer ball. 5 luckiest people in audience. Yeah.
Not my day.
Not your day. We have a surprise for you too. Don't. Okay. I hope you had a great time and gained valuable insights. We've covered a lot of topics, and now it's time to continue the conversation over food and drinks. And if you love our bird incubator space, you can rent it. This is great news for you. Just check a bird incubator website. And now, thank you everybody for coming. Thank you so much to our panelists. Enjoy, and I hope we see each other at our next AI Impact meetup. Thank you, everyone.